The test took 30 seconds to destroy everything I'd ever dreamed of. I was 18 years old.
18.
The smell of freedom hung in the air, mixed with the scent of new textbooks and the promises of a future painted in bold, vivid colors. College, frat parties, studying abroad, the independence I'd fantasized about my entire life. I was packing boxes to move out in August. My life was a blank canvas, and I was the one holding the pen. It was late spring, on an afternoon drenched in innocent sunlight, when I stood frozen in front of my bathroom mirror, clutching that little plastic test in my trembling hand. I stared at the tiny window, waiting. My thoughts were on a party I was supposed to hit that weekend, not motherhood. My 18-year-old body was supposed to mean possibility, not responsibility. When the two lines appeared, there was no warm glow of a miracle. There was only the icy shock of absolute panic. The lines were thin, but the truth they carried was massive and devastating. My life, the one I'd meticulously planned since I was 10, didn't just crumble. It imploded in a single heartbeat. I wouldn't be the promising freshman. I'd be the single mom who never got to live her youth. I could feel the crushing weight of social stigma suffocating me before anyone even knew. Fear coiled in my stomach like a cold, living thing. And the first thing it whispered was, "Don't tell anyone." My boyfriend, Alex, was the first person I had to face. He was my safe harbor, my partner in youthful rebellion. I thought, we'll get through this together. I waited anxiously for him to arrive. When he walked in, my heart pounded so hard I was sure he could hear it. I didn't say anything at first. I just led him to the couch, took a deep breath, and showed him the proof. His reaction was the first knife in my chest. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was cold, detached denial. "This can't be real, Chloe. We were careful." His voice was controlled, but his eyes, those eyes that had always burned with passion and intimacy, were now windows into pure panic and the desperate need to escape. I tried to reason with him, tried to pull him into the reality of our future. I talked about family, about support. But the more I mentioned the baby, the further he retreated. He didn't see a child. He saw an ending. The end of his freedom, the end of the future he wanted. He stood up and started pacing. "I have college. I have plans. I can't ruin everything now. I'm only 18. He didn't catch the bitter irony. I was 18 too, but my future was already shattered on the floor. In that moment, I knew abandonment was coming, not in a dramatic outburst, but in cowardly silence. He told me he needed time, that he'd call tomorrow. And I, with my shattered innocence, believed him. I watched him walk out the door, and with every step he took, my small world grew lonelier. The party I'd planned didn't matter anymore. The only sound was my life falling apart, and the only truth was the brutal loneliness of early motherhood announcing itself. My life crumbled that very hour, and I was alone to pick up the pieces. If this story is hitting home, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I spent the rest of that night in a numb haze, phone in hand, staring at Alex's name that never lit up the screen. His silence was louder than any scream. I could already feel the world's judgment, the crushing weight of rejection, even though no one knew yet. My youth, that phase of life when mistakes are supposed to be small and forgivable, had been replaced by a responsibility too enormous to comprehend. Morning brought the confirmation I dreaded. No call. Just a cold, clinical text message hours later. "I'm sorry, Chloe. It's not mine." And even if it was, I'm not ready for this. Don't count on me. Move on. The message hit me like a bullet. It's not mine. The denial of paternity, a blatant lie to justify his abandonment. In that instant, I wasn't just losing my boyfriend. I was losing my faith in the future, in love, in justice. A sharp wave of pain crashed through me, mixed with an ice-cold rage. He didn't just leave me. He dishonored me. The worst part was the secret. My mom kept popping into my room every few hours to ask about packing the boxes. "You're going to love college, sweetheart," she'd say, her eyes shining with pride. I'd smile, a fake, painful smile, while the truth grew inside my belly. Living under my parents' roof, knowing I was about to destroy every expectation they had, was its own kind of torture. I avoided mirrors, not because I didn't want to see my body, but because I didn't want to see the lie in my eyes. At every meal with my parents, every conversation about the future, I felt the weight of my burden. I was pregnant, but I was also emotionally exiled, living a double life where innocence was the mask and lonely motherhood was the naked truth. At 18, I should have been thinking about entrance exams and parties. Instead, I was Googling diaper costs and health insurance plans. The initial shock had transformed into a grim determination. I knew I couldn't hide the truth forever. My ultimatum was coming, and I needed to prepare for the battlefield that would be my own home. I was a child about to wage a silent war for my son's life, and my only ally was an invisible strength I had yet to discover. Summer arrived, and with it, the need to make an irreversible decision. I was entering the second trimester. My body, once slender and youthful, was beginning to curve under the weight of truth. My belly was still discreet, but the loneliness inside me was growing like a hungry fetus. The secret was a physical pressure, a tumor I needed to remove before it suffocated everyone. I called Alex one last time. I wasn't begging for love. I was demanding responsibility. "You need to come with me. We have to face this together." He agreed to meet me at an isolated park. When he showed up, the charm was gone. There was just a scared boy with a backpack, ready to run. He looked at me and repeated the phrase that would haunt me. "I can't ruin my future over a mistake." I snapped. I didn't yell, but my voice was charged with an icy fury that came from somewhere deep, from my invisible strength. "It's not a mistake, Alex. It's a life. And you're the father." That's when he dropped the bomb that sealed my abandonment and gave me my first taste of the social judgment I'd face. He pulled a crumpled letter from his pocket, some generic, cowardly apology written by someone I didn't recognize, and told me he'd already moved to his college town. The cherry on top was his final line. "I told everyone we broke up because you were too clingy, and that I'm not the father, that you're making it up to trap me." The shock wasn't the lie itself, it was the cruelty. He hadn't just abandoned me, he'd made me the villain. My reputation, my worth, my entire story would be questioned before I could even catch my breath. I'd be the hysterical young woman, the liar, the desperate single mom. My life shattered completely. I went home and faced my reflection. I was 18, pregnant, abandoned, and slandered. I couldn't postpone this any longer. The revelation to my parents was the dramatic ultimatum I'd been bracing for. It happened at the dinner table. I showed them the ultrasound, my little miracle, still just a blur, and said, my voice choked but steady, "I'm pregnant, and I'm alone." Their silence was the silence of a Greek tragedy. My father stood up, his eyes filled with tears of disappointment. not tenderness. My mother started crying, repeating, "What are we going to say? What will we tell the church? What will people think?" Their concern wasn't for me. It was for their reputation, for the shame I was bringing upon the family. My father gave me his ultimatum. "You choose, Chloe. Either you get rid of this and go to college like we planned. We'll handle the rest. Or you keep it and you're on your own. We can't be accomplices to this stain." The choice was really no choice at all. They wanted me to discard the life I was already beginning to love just to preserve their social facade. I looked at the ultrasound photo in my wallet. There were no more doubts. My invisible strength was my son. In that moment, at 18 years old, I made the most adult decision of my life. I said, "I choose him, and I won't get rid of a life." The reaction was total family rejection. I was emotionally expelled before I was physically thrown out. My home became a hostile environment where every glance was a judgment, every meal eaten in isolation. My bedroom, once a refuge, was now an exile. I started making plans. I wouldn't beg. I would create my own new beginning. My journey of courage was about to start, far from everything I knew. The house that should have been my sanctuary had become a chamber of silent torture. After my father's dramatic ultimatum, the baby or your life, the family rejection manifested not in screaming, but in oppressive silence. I walked through the house like an intruder. My belly, now subtly visible, was the evidence of my mistake and the source of the shame hanging over my parents. My mother occasionally tried a softer approach, full of pity and forced tears. She'd show me adoption agency brochures, talking about a chance for a better future for the baby and getting your life back for me. The phrase "getting your life back" sounded cruel. How could I get my life back by discarding the only life I'd created? At 18, I was being pressured to make a choice no one should ever have to make. They wanted me to throw away the life I was starting to love just to protect their social image. My answer was always the same, delivered with the firmness that early motherhood had forced upon me. I chose him, and I'm not giving up. The decision to leave everything behind didn't come from a night of anger, but from a morning of emotional exhaustion. My father had thrown my college luggage into the attic, declaring that if I chose the baby, he wouldn't fund my irresponsibility. The lack of support wasn't just emotional, it was financial, a brutal blow for someone who'd just turned legal age. I was technically an adult, but emotionally I was a child shouldering the weight of an adult world. I looked around my bedroom at the posters, the school books. Everything was a reminder of the past that he, Alex, and they, my parents, had stolen from me. There was nothing left for me there but judgment and loneliness. I needed air. I needed a place where my pregnancy wasn't a stain, but a future. That night, I grabbed the small savings I'd set aside for college. Just a few $100s, but it felt like a fortune, my only ticket to freedom. I wrote a brief note. "I'm sorry for disappointing you, but I won't disappoint my son. I'll figure it out." I left before dawn, backpack on my shoulders and the ultrasound photo, my little miracle, tucked in my wallet. Closing that door wasn't a sad goodbye. It was a silent liberation, a new beginning forced by abandonment. I was embarking on a journey of courage that would take me far from my hometown, far from the social stigma that was suffocating me. I caught the first interstate bus I could afford. I didn't look back. It felt like exile, but also like pure, grim determination. At 18, I was running away from my own family to save one. With every mile between us, the weight of the initial shock lifted. replaced by the urgency of survival. I had no plans, nowhere to go, but I had an unbreakable reason: my son. On that cold bus seat, I looked down at my belly and whispered a promise. We're going to make it, against all odds. It was the first time my invisible strength showed itself, not as defense, but as initiative. I was no longer the victim. I was the architect of my own salvation. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. The new city was cold, indifferent, and vast. I stepped off the bus with my backpack and my youngest social transformation, my son, invisible beneath my jacket. I had no address, no connections, just the grim determination that abandonment and family rejection had forced me to find. At 18, I was completely alone, dropped into an unfamiliar metropolis. The first days were a living hell of total isolation and despair. I rented rooms by the night in roadside boarding houses. The smell of mold and cheap disinfectant became my new perfume. I ate dry bread and water. The college money, my only ticket to freedom, was slipping through my fingers like sand. Financial hardship wasn't a threat anymore. It was my reality. I felt like the invisible heroine nobody saw or valued. I walked for hours, sending resumes everywhere: diners, supermarkets, convenience stores. But at every interview, my body betrayed me. The pregnancy, even if still subtle, was a red flag to every employer. They didn't see an employee. They saw a future maternity leave, a burden. The stigma followed me. Even in a new city, there was a moment in my 4th month when hope almost abandoned me. I was sitting on a park bench, a light, cold rain wetting my face. I had a silent breakdown. I thought, I made a mistake. I should have listened to my parents. I should have given up. The despair was so deep I felt my body give out. And it was there at rock bottom that catharsis came. I remembered my son, my little miracle. The love I had for him was the only thing I had left, the only unbreakable force. Alex's abandonment and my family's rejection had broken me, but the life inside me demanded wholeness. I clenched my fists and made a promise to my body and my child. No one is going to defeat us. We're going to build our own life. In that moment, I discovered my invisible strength. It wasn't magic. It was the pure determination of a young mother forced to grow up fast. I stopped looking for jobs that rejected me and started looking for what the city actually needed. I remember my computer skills and began offering typing and spreadsheet services to small local businesses, working through the night at cheap internet cafes. It was exhausting, but it was mine. I was creating my own new beginning, against all odds. My journey of courage was no longer about running from judgment. It was about building a dignified future with my own 2 hands, proof that unexpected motherhood didn't have to be the end of everything. Despair gave way to fierce resistance and hope. Loneliness was just the stage for my transformation. The routine of working through the night at internet cafes and taking odd jobs during the day was unsustainable. I was exhausted and starving. The total isolation of the new city had taken a physical and emotional toll. I was 5 months along, and my belly could no longer hide under baggy jackets. Social stigma reached me with every strange look on the bus, every closed door. On a cold, gray day, after yet another failed attempt to rent a decent room, financial hardship was relentless. I stopped at a small, cozy coffee shop. I bought the cheapest cup of coffee and sat down, trying to look busy with my laptop. I was calculating how much longer my money would last, And the answer was terrifying. I was on the edge of despair. That's when she approached. Mrs. Clara. She was the owner of the coffee shop, a gray-haired woman with calloused hands and eyes that seemed to have witnessed every storm the world had to offer. She placed a small cheese roll and a warm glass of milk on my table without saying a word. "No need to pay, dear," she said, before I could protest. "You look like you haven't had a proper meal in days. And you're pregnant." That simple act of kindness broke through my armor of grim determination. The tears came, not from sadness, but from sudden, overwhelming gratitude. It was the first selfless kindness I'd received since the abandonment. Mrs. Clara sat with me. I didn't need to tell my story. She read it in my eyes. The youth, the pregnancy, the loneliness, the struggle. "Your boyfriend left, didn't he?" she asked, her voice gentle but direct. "And your parents, they didn't understand." I nodded, unable to speak. She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "My first child," she began, "was born when I was 17. The father? He ran. My family? They sent me away. You're not the first invisible heroine to go through this. And you won't be the last." Her understanding was my moment of catharsis. I wasn't an isolated case of failure. I was part of a shared story of courage and resilience. Mrs. Clara was living proof that it was possible not just to survive, but to thrive. She offered me what I needed most, real hope and practical help. She offered me a job at the coffee shop, washing dishes and wiping tables, and, more crucially, a tiny room in the back. "The work is light. You need to eat," she insisted. "And that baby needs a home." Mrs. Clara's appearance was the unexpected turning point fate had orchestrated. She was my angel, the empathetic voice who taught me to transform pain into strength. She told me, "The love he never gave you will become the foundation of courage for this child. Never feel shame for choosing life. Your invisible strength is your son." I began my new beginning there, in that cold coffee shop filled with human warmth. At 18, I had a job, a roof over my head, and a mentor who saw me not as a social tragedy, but as a warrior. The loneliness had been broken. The tiny room behind Mrs. Clara's coffee shop became my sanctuary of courage. It wasn't luxurious, a thin mattress on the floor, a hanging light bulb, and the constant smell of roasted coffee and hope, but it was mine, free from judgment and family rejection. There, I could finally embrace my belly without shame, feeling only the fierce love of a young mother. Winter came, and with it, the longest, hardest months of pregnancy. An 18-year-old's body isn't built to carry the weight of an adult world and an advanced pregnancy at the same time. The silent battle was daily. My back ached from standing at the counter, my ankles were permanently swollen, and exhaustion became a thick fog that followed me from waking to sleep. The financial struggles eased a little thanks to Mrs. Clara, but they were still a constant worry. I saved every penny for baby supplies and hospital costs, often skipping my own lunch to make sure I'd have money for fruit or a supplement. The loneliness hadn't completely disappeared. It transformed into constant vigilance. While other girls my age worried about final exams and graduation trips, I worried about the next electric bill and the fear of not being enough of a mother. The nights were my purgatory and my catharsis. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie down and feel the baby's strong kicks, constant communication reminding me that no matter how tired I was, another life depended on my invisible strength. It was during those sleepless nights, under the dim light bulb, that I started my countdown journal. It wasn't a diary of events, but of intimate confessions whispered to my son. I'd grab an old notebook and write long letters to him, my only ally in freedom. Today, my love, the owner of a store, looked at me with pity. He didn't see your mother, the warrior. He only saw the abandoned girl. But I didn't cry in front of him. I'm crying here, now. The silent tears, so I don't scare you. Know that every tear tonight is a promise of a dignified future. You are my new beginning. I detailed the pain, the fear, the memory of Alex's abandonment and my family's rejection, but always with an emotional turn at the end of each page. I used my pen to transform burden into unbreakable strength. My belly was no longer a sign of traumatic social upheaval. It was the center of my universe, a sanctuary of courage under construction. Mrs. Clara was my anchor. She'd share stories of her own struggles, teaching me the importance of refusing shame. You're young, Chloe, she'd say, but your responsibility has made you older than all of them combined. Their stigma is your trophy. In those final weeks, every pain was a signal of hope. Every practice contraction was a reminder that the end of my silent battle was near, and with it, the reward. I'd look at the crumpled ultrasound photo and feel determination ignite inside me. I didn't have the support of a traditional family, but I had courage worth more than all the college diplomas my parents ever wanted. I prepared for birth alone, but invincible. I packed my hospital bag, not with expensive gifts, but with essentials and the certainty that my love was the only luxury my son would ever need. My body was depleted, but my spirit was ready for the final triumph. The countdown had reached days. I was about to give birth not just to a son, but to a new version of myself. I'd love to hear your story. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this resonated with you the most? The final moment arrived in the darkness of night. Mrs. Clara was by my side, her strong, experienced hand offering me the comfort my own family had denied. I was exhausted, but the pain of labor was, paradoxically, the least painful of all the pain I'd endured. It was pain with purpose, pain that would free me from stigma and abandonment. In that hospital room, I relived my entire journey of courage. I remembered my parents' dramatic ultimatum, the summer frozen in judgment, Alex's cowardly abandonment. It all seemed like a distant fog. I was no longer fighting against them. I was fighting for him. My strength was visceral, primal. At 18, I was doing the hardest and most important work of my life, alone, but invincible. Mrs. Clara's encouraging voice was my only anchor in a spinning world. The moment of the final push was an explosion of catharsis. In one last effort, I pushed not only to bring my son into the world, but to expel all the loneliness, all the shame, all the pain of family rejection I'd carried for 9 months. And then, the silence was broken. The cry, that sharp, powerful wail, was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. It was the anthem of my victory. They placed him on my chest, small, slippery, and smelling unmistakably of a new beginning. My arms held him, and in that instant, the world rearranged itself. I looked at his tiny face. His eyes opened and looked at me. In that gaze, there was no judgment, no pity, only complete and absolute trust. He was my miracle, the physical proof that I hadn't failed. All the pain, the financial hardships, the silent struggle in the back of the coffee shop, it was all worth it. In that touch, I felt healed. The hole left by Alex's ghost was filled with an unbreakable love 100 times greater than any romantic love I could ever have known. Mrs. Clara cried beside me. "You did it, Chloe," she whispered. "You're a warrior." At 18, I had lost my youth, my college plans, and my family. But I had gained something far greater: purpose and an invisible strength that made me invincible. I was officially a single mother, but I wasn't defined by abandonment. I was defined by courage. My new beginning was in my arms. And in that moment of triumph and hope, I swore to myself that my story would become the foundation of courage for other women. I had become the invisible heroine my son needed. For years past, 4 years that transformed the scared 18-year-old girl into a firm and invincible woman. My son, Bob, was a hurricane of joy and endless questions. I had finished a technical degree, still worked for Mrs. Clara, now as manager, and we lived in our own apartment, small, but flooded with sunlight and hope. Our life was the definition of a dignified future built against all odds. The silent battle had become a routine of victory. I had overcome the social stigma of single motherhood and family rejection, transforming all the pain of abandonment into a solid foundation of invisible strength. I had become the invisible heroine Mrs. Clara told me I would be. The unexpected turning point came by mail. A letter in a thick envelope. No return address. I opened it with cold curiosity. Inside, there was a series of old photos of me and Alex, young and smiling, and a typed letter and signed. It was from Alex, the ghost. The letter wasn't an apology. It was a cowardly confession. He wrote that he'd had a breakdown in college, that his life had spiraled out of control, and that he'd finally confessed the truth about my pregnancy and his immediate abandonment to his parents. He wasn't trying to come back out of love, but out of guilt and desperation. He'd seen a photo of me on the coffee shop's wall, put there by Mrs. Clara, and realized I had won. He wasn't begging for a chance. He was demanding one. He wrote about his rights as a father and about fixing his mistake. My heart didn't race. There was no anger, no shock, just complete calm. He still saw Bob as a mistake to be fixed, not as a miracle. He couldn't see the strength his absence had given me. The poetic justice wouldn't come in a dramatic confrontation. It would come in a quiet choice. I called the only contact number in the letter, a cheap law firm. The voice on the other end was his, tense and hesitant. "I got your letter, Alex," I said, my voice steady and adult. The 18-year-old girl was gone. He started talking fast and nervous about his family, about how he had changed. I cut him off. "Stop. You have no rights over a life you denied, slandered, and fled from." "But I'm the father," he argued, his voice rising. "No," I said. My voice was a whisper, but it carried the weight of 4 years of courage. "You were the obstacle that made me discover how strong I was. You were the denial. I'm his father. And so is everyone who helped us along the way." I gave him my final ultimatum. "You can keep your silence and your absence. Or you can try to approach legally, and I'll make sure the story of how you disappeared the same night you found out about the pregnancy is in every document. And Bob will know the truth. Your choice." The silence that followed was the same oppressive silence of a night he ran, but now the power was mine. He stammered something about thinking it over, and I hung up. There was no bitterness, just the final closure of a cycle. I ripped up the letter and threw away the photos. My new beginning was free from the shadows of the past. My silent victory was complete. The final reflection, the real shock, wasn't the letter. It was my complete and total indifference to it. I realized I didn't hate Alex. I simply didn't care anymore. The unbreakable love for Bob and the pride in my invisible strength had purified my soul of any bitterness. His abandonment took away my boyfriend, but it gave me a life with purpose and a capacity to love that he will never know. At 18, I lost my life to find it. The catharsis is realizing that my greatest freedom came from my greatest responsibility. To all the young mothers who feel like life is over, to all the women facing social judgment or the loneliness of motherhood, remember the story of the 18-year-old girl who watched her world fall apart and, instead of giving up, rebuilt it brick by brick with her own hands. Your pregnancy isn't a stain, it's your act of courage. Your unbreakable strength is the legacy you'll leave for your child. Don't let the ghost of the past define your future. Choose silent victory. Choose hope. Your story, your journey of courage, is just beginning. If this story moved you, subscribe to my channel for more powerful stories of resilience and hope. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today.